welcome everybody. We're sitting about 3:03. That feels like a good time to get going. This is being recorded, and you are here live with Dr. Darrow Tonema and Jondi. Jondi, how do you say her last name?
Whitis.
Whitis. Jondi Whitis. She's joining us today from Georgia. The beautiful thing about Zoom is that we get all over the place. And Darrow's still down in the wonderful digs of Arizona, and the rest of us are scattered around. So you don't want to hear from me. I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Darrow. Thank you, everybody. Oh, couple pieces of homework. I failed to get out the email to all of you, so I'm working on that right now. I set it to do automatic, but it failed, so I failed. But I'll get that out to you. If you did not register through Eventbrite, you got to put your email in the chat, because otherwise you won't get this email from me. And if you do want CEUs, please send me an email, and I will make sure to send you the paperwork that is required for that. And I will place Dr. Darrow's email into this chat. So if at any time you wanted to connect with him, you can do that. Thank you, everybody, and welcome. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us. This seems to be going really well. People are very curious and into the tool. And we're, as Jondi and I have been talking over the week, we kind of want to build. So last week, we kind of gave you the foundations, talked about there's some research that supports this. There's a lot of research that supports this. And it is, and I explained that it is probably my favorite tool. Because probably like you, and I know Jondi, we want to help people feel better. We want to move the needle. We want to help people help them feel better fast. And as I've shared with you previously, I was a skeptic for a long time, and until I decided, well, I need more tools. I need depth and breadth in my toolbox, and I'm able to bust this tool out quite a bit to great results. So open your hearts, open your minds to potentials and possibilities. That's maybe we don't understand all the machinations of it, but I can attest that this is a good tool and that it works. And Jondi is one of my favorites in just on earth, but in the field of helping people. I just love our relationship. And when she agreed for this opportunity to work with us to teach you this tool, I jumped all over it like I don't know, something on a biscuit. I don't know. You're in Georgia. You're in Georgia, Jondi. Come up with something.
I'll look it up.
Okay. So I'll be quiet because we want to get as much work done as we can. It may be, you tell me this if I'm right or not, Jondi. It may be beneficial sometimes if we're going to do some of the motions, if you can see you on screen, so we can coach you up a little bit better. But there you go. Okay. I'll hand it over to Jondi.
Well, thank you. And never feel like you are prevented from raising your hand, asking questions. If I don't see you, unmute, ask away. I may answer it right there because it's germane to what I'm trying to accomplish, or I might say, may I talk to you about this at break or later? And all questions are welcome, though. So I wanted you to know that. And so anyway, without further ado, on our last class, which was class 1, we started talking about building a stair-stepped type of response that made sense for you to learn and for you to also teach someone else. And so I know that Annie said that she didn't get out the tapping chart and things like that to you, but it's coming now. And so I do hope that that will help you with this very simple tool. I always engage with people on do this for yourself first. Self-care is not a negotiable. It just isn't. I've tried it the other way. Not good. And so we need to know how to use that to rebalance quickly, to ground, to discern, all those things that we like to do naturally. If there's too much, too fast, we just get knocked offline. I know these are not proper neurological terms, but I prefer to talk in real world terms, just everyday conversation. So when we get knocked offline from something, we see something, we hear something, someone tells us something, something happens to us. I've been dedicated, and thank you, Daryl, for giving me the opportunity to help people move very quickly through that in a more somatic fashion. And later we can see what needs to be addressed in a cognitive fashion. So there's no babies losing any bath water or any of those other cliches, probably they know in Georgia. But it is an additional tool for your toolbox that boxes that I think is probably just the handiest thing I've ever met. And so we're working our way up to that Kleenex kind of word called tapping, because it now stands for many different kinds of algorithms and protocols that use percussive pressure on acupuncture points. Don't worry about that. I'm just saying this is one. And I have used a lot of my time trying to find out what are really good, reliable ones to easily teach people that they can easily remember and launch. Because if you don't use it, it doesn't matter, right? So that said, now I'm going to go over to my screen share. And this is class 2. That's another thing. I know Linda wasn't here. I don't know if anybody else wasn't here, but Daryl and I had heard this word from a lot of different people. And so one of the things that we really liked was this concept of sovereignty that people were talking about. And we went, yes, we're going to incorporate that word and make self-care more than a Hallmark card, give it its honor and its due. So that's why we've named it this way. So I'm going to remind you that the ground rules for any group actually is that we want to put safety first. We want to invoke and keep confidentiality for anyone who shares anything that's personal. Keep it here. We would like to have a commitment to participate, because unless you experience it, you will only get the tip of the iceberg. And we really want you to embody the knowing so you can truly decide for yourself. Honest feedback, always welcome. I used to say that honesty was required and tact is appreciated, but I'll even forego the tact. Just honesty is required. That way, I'll know where you are either not understanding, not liking, having an issue that I might be able to be helpful on. And last but not least is the idea of passing it on or paying it forward. Whatever we find that is very useful for us, I feel like we have, I guess it's a moral imperative to share that. I was very lucky in my life. I had several mentors. I didn't know for the longest time that wasn't the way the world was. But I do know that they put inside my heart the idea of I've helped you and now you're going to help another. And I honor that every day, and I hope you will too. So those of you who were here, I know you didn't have the chart, but did anybody try any of the things that I showed you, which are actually the before you get to EFT tapping? We call that area emotional first aid. It doesn't have words and it's not complicated. They're tiny little interventions or strategies. So did you take any of those that I tried with you out into your own what am I trying to say? Your own routine that you do for self-care? Or did you share it with anyone at home or a colleague or a friend? Did you have an unfortunate opportunity that demanded that you share it with somebody? I would love it if somebody would help me out here. And last time it took us a while to get conversational, but this time I hope we're creeping up on faster.
So since
Anybody?
nobody else, oh, Daryl, you got it?
Whoever, I'm happy to hear from you.
So I have a dust allergy, and I'm in Arizona. I didn't even plan that thing out. Mm-hmm. So I've had headaches right here for 3 months now, and then for whatever reason, Carmen has asked me, why don't you ever tap on that? And so this week was my my re-energizing of ABCs, always be collapsing stuff. So I pointed it at my sinuses this week, and I always say doggone it because sometimes it just doesn't make sense. But doggone it, it worked. It went from probably a 5 to a 3 to a 1. I did just a couple rounds. And it's very simple. Even though I'm feeling it in my sinuses, it's pretty uncomfortable. That's just how it is. And that was my setup. It wasn't brain surgery. And it was very effective one. All right, I'll be quiet now.
Oh, stop saying that, please. I'm thrilled to bits that you did that. And yes, absolutely, this happens all the time. People that I know how to tap. I say, well, what'd you do for it? And did you tap for it? And they go, no. And it almost always works. And when I say work, it doesn't cure anyone. We don't advertise that we cure anything, but it certainly does mitigate or remove or release a lot of the burden the body is carrying. And sometimes that's enough. And sometimes with skilled people helping us, we can totally release the condition. Thanks, Daryl. Anybody else have anything they would like to add?
I was going to mention that I used it a lot, although it wasn't in times where I was feeling I needed it, but it was in times where I was like, if this progresses, I could maybe need this. And so in those times, kind of the foreshadow, I would do some, and then, just to help keep me at that, moment of peace or balance. And I did that a lot actually over the past week, and I noticed it was nice. I don't know if it prevented anything, but it made me feel good.
That's wonderful. Well, here's something I won't delve into today, but I do often tell practitioners who've been through all kinds of classes and the certification process, I often say to them, what was your goal? And 9 times out of 10, they go, oh, yeah, sinuses or something. And I go, okay, how about if we refined that? Actually, in tapping school and tapping class, we often invoke the idea of WD-40, which makes everything slide easier, faster, better. And it has a little straw on it. And we often say, put that on whatever you're saying and target the word or the concept or the specific acute place that you're trying to do something with, say it, right? And when we do, Sean, I would love you to try it out. It's kind of amazing. The more specifically targeted we are, it's like we're on task. So
I like that analogy very much.
Excellent. Me too. I have given up buying cans of it though, because the TSA keeps taking it from me. Oh well. That's just the way it goes. Anybody else that wanted to comment on anything that they tried or read or had questions about that kind of landed with them last time?
I have just a quick thing, Jondi.
Yes, please.
Actually, it's a request. Could you give Sean an example of using the WD-40? What does that mean to refine a little bit?
Absolutely. Sure. Thanks for asking. Okay, so I'm going back so I can see Sean. I can't get you all on the same screen. So Sean, often what happens is this. People go, I'm just really upset. And I say, you know what? That's a good place to start. But in my mind, I'm being purposefully rather global about it, just to honor their request and get them started. But after a round or two, I'm going to go, upset like what? Or upset with who? Or my mentor's favorite question, what's that like for you? And then they give me the goods. It's like I went all over it, or I handed them the can and they go, oh yeah, well, I'm really upset. And that means I can't hold down my food. And then I'm going to start this whole thing again with the stomach. And, do you see, they just launch, at which point our next step is to rein it back in, to go back to that WD-40 acuteness and say, well, let's start here with whatever they just said. I'm upset and it's going to hurt my stomach. So I make sure that I use their words. It's always their subjective reality, not mine. And I never try to synthesize or condense, which is great fun when you're working with kids because they'll say very strange things and it's fun. You just take it in and deliver it back. It could not be easier, but that is what I mean. And we just pick them off as if they were, stones or whatever. We call them aspects in our world. We just pick them off one at a time, usually on a priority basis. Does that help?
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah.
Cool, cool. Okay. Then I'll just move this along. Let's see, where is the slideshow version? Play it from.
This is Rebecca. I have a quick question.
Yes, please.
Can you talk a little bit about tapping with people with like sensory integration disorder?
Mhm. I can, but I can't spend a lot of time about it here, but I am able to talk, refer, go deeper at any time, but I won't have enough time to do it here. Let me just say this. I always follow a maxim I made when I learned all this stuff from Gary Craig, who codified this elegant little simple piece of this work. And I made this mantra and I say, satisfy the structure and then customize to the customer. And what that means is for someone, like I was tapping on a chronic fatigue friend, not realizing that even my light touch was too thumpy a touch for her. Her sensory issues were for a totally different reason, but that is a good analogy of what I need to do. I need to find a workaround that will satisfy the structural pieces of what I'm doing, but in a way they can tolerate or will want to do. Does that help as a?
Yeah, just to improvise as you need.
Yes, ma'am. Like some autistic children love the percussive nature of tapping, and it's hard to get them to stop. And some of them find it overwhelming and horrible. You just have to meet them where they are.
Have you worked with anybody who they just can't tolerate the tapping?
Sure, tapping is
Yeah.
not for everybody. I will say it's about 98.99% of the world has found a way to work that out, but it isn't for everybody. And I don't try to put that Cinderella shoe on everybody just so I'll be happy. It may not be the tool for them, but this is why I have been, Leslie, last week really was talking about emotional first aid instead of classic tapping would be a perfect choice for that, because it is breathing and holding or just touching very lightly. And I like to look at these. I'm sorry, I lost your picture. But Rebecca, but one of the algorithms that we like to integrate, like you said, we find a way to get through, was by Dr. Daniel Benoit, who's still with us but ill. And he made something called Hui a long time ago. And Hui was a precursor really to the EMDR only practitioner led kind of services that anyone could do. And so with a child like that, I might try to ask them if they could do butterflies with me. They go, what? But monkey see, monkey do, right? And so I might even put shuckling, which is an Ulf word, which is a way of self-soothing, because that's really what we're trying to deliver for them first, is self-soothing. I'm not trying to get anywhere cognitively with them, not yet anyway. Does that help also?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you for asking. So I'm just gonna recap from last time. Simple truth, really staying out of our head as much as we can during this phase, right? I'm not telling anybody they're wrong or they shouldn't or anything else. I'm saying during this phase of helping someone soothe, rebalance, let go of overwhelm, come back into a reset position that is more resourceful, I'm not really working with the head. I'm trying very hard to stay with the simple truth, and usually of the body, something somatic. And a little kid who I really like working with little kids will go, hurts here. And that's it. That is their toto, and that's fine. Hurts here, show me where. Okay, hurts here, got it. And maybe we just want to think about that for a minute together and quiet. Let's see if we can quiet the hurts here. So these are just avenues of trying to use emotional first aid, which are touch and breathing sensitive, somatic kinds of things, as opposed to pouring on top of them cognitive things they have to pay attention to. It's just a phase that's not come up yet. So that's how I've learned to handle it. simple truth and tapping works well once I have gotten them grounded or soothed or released the overwhelm. So I actually have a partner to work with. And that includes me. If I'm sometimes doing it for myself, I do it in the mirror. So I have somebody to tap with. But we learn about this subjective experience. That's why Daryl excited me by offering this opportunity, because it's all subjective and it's also personal. And I want you to have a subjective embodied experience of it and decide for yourself. No one's trying to convince anybody of anything here. So let's see, I'm moving on with this. Okay, so I did want to say this about that because sometimes people get confused. Emotional first aid is not therapy, and many kinds of precursor simple tapping is not either. We're not going in depth. We're offering support in the moment to help them get back into a balanced, resourced place. So I wanted to make sure I said that. That said, EFT is remarkably like an iceberg, and the majesty and mystery of it is down below the waterline. And this little thing is what we see on the top. But trust me, it's there because that's the way I use it every day. Speaking about trust, it has to be built. This is another thing I see lots of people wanting to do, which is, well, you know, I want them to trust me. And I go, well, you know, that's up to them. You have to build that. So one of the ways I know to do that is to provide them a felt sense of safety. So going full Porges on you there. I believe, like Mr. Maslow beforehand, we're not really going much of anywhere if we don't feel a sense of safety with that person or this situation. So that has been my moniker. I also work with a lot of vets who are very gun shy sometimes. Well, that was an unfortunate analogy, wasn't it? Okay, they're very shy sometimes about even working with each other because I don't want to hurt them, or I don't want to hurt her. This happens a lot more with female vets than the guys. But I tell them all the time, you don't need to know a lot to help a lot in the moment. That's why we're learning in the moment self-care and peer-to-peer care. And so it's time to add to our toolboxes. From last week, I showed you a few things, and actually we did get some shares, and I appreciate that very much. So I wanted to say, once I start introducing words, it's after, like I already said, we get them into a more embodied, balanced, grounded state, okay? Once we're in EFA, emotional first aid, that's what I'm really working on, is somatic kinds of releases. But when we do that, and we come to the next phase, that's when I think with a peer-to-peer care model, might help if I spelled that right. I didn't, I'll do it later. Which is somebody who already I trust to work with generally, right? That would be a very common use of this kind of simple tapping. This was somebody I already know and I'm used to, and I trust enough to say, hey, can you help me with this? I got something, I need some help. So this is the beginning of the next phase so that we can add some words to the somatic place that we came from last week. I want to speak to what I was telling Sean. We focus on one thing. It can be global or specific, but of course, I know you know already, one thing is preferable, and preferably a specific thing, to get greater, faster, better results. We can measure it because we need a benchmark. They need to know this is a worthwhile use of their time, even if they like you. They need to know. And I guess so do we. So we could measure it 0 to 10, or big, little, heavy or light, red, green, sharp, dull. Little kids often give great metaphors for that. It's like a balloon with candy inside, and I can hear it, but I can't get to it. I mean, I couldn't have thought of these things. It's so beautiful. But they have something in their mind that sounds unmeasurable, but I believe you will find it becomes very measurable when you ask them again after launching some intervention and they say, well, it seems like there's not so much candy in there, but there's an opening in the bag. So they're showing you how it's processing, and that's plenty for them, little kids. So Important thing to do in colleague tapping or peer-to-peer tapping or for yourself, I'd love you just to choose a word that is innocuous, just common as dirt, something like this or this thing. So my person tells me, Gerald, I'm not picking on you, but I'll say my person tells me, well, I have a headache. I could say this headache and just start there and see what happens. Because in general, as you tap, it starts resolving into something more acute and specific. And they don't feel so interviewed before you start. You're able to launch your services very quickly. I'd like you to tap an entire sequence round or two, which is on the charts that Annie's sending you. I'm sorry you didn't have them, but you will now. And that means this is where we define the issue and some kind of balancing statement. And then we start at the top, or at least I do, because it's like gravity. I just follow the gravity down, and it's only about 8 points. So once you get cooking with this, you can literally do stuff in about 20 seconds. This headache, 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 this headache. And so now you've seen from last week, I just used all the points that I showed you, and that fast. You don't have to go that fast. And to answer Rebecca's question, if I've got someone who is distressed by speed or change, I won't be doing it that way. I'll customize it. So after we tap an entire sequence or two, then we're going to remeasure. We want to know our progress, right? And as we do, as it becomes less or the different color that is more resolved for them, or it's lighter and lighter, whatever it is, that is it processing right in front of you into less intensity and often more clarity. And again, this is my favorite question, and I wish it were mine, but it's not. It's Gwyneth Moss's. I say all the time, what's that like now? And that's all I need to ask. No interviews, no deep digging. It's almost always available to them once they've agreed to go along and tap with you. Okay. So, and then at this point, you can decide together what more is needed, or if you're done. Thank you so much. My head feels much better. I got to get back to work. Done. Or the other person says, oh my gosh, all the stuff started coming up and my head feels better, but I see that I've got a lot of stuff going on. I make a value judgment there of if I have time to honor that and say, well, let's just tap a round or two on that. Even though my headache is gone, there's a lot going on for me. And that's the truth. So this is what kind of syntax Daryl was referring to. It's their words, simple truth dropped in. Problem, some kind of acknowledgement, percussive tapping to let the tapping do the work. And as Daryl says, I'm always kind of dumbfounded. I don't know why it works, but it does. And actually, we do have information on that. It's just not germane today, I don't think. Anyway, any questions about that so far? Because this is the point where insights are going to come up for yourself or your people, but you might be having some too now. Anybody? No? Okay. Well, I wanted to just say, once you remove the intensity, I call it the noise and chatter of everything going on, it's much easier for them to point at what it is that's come to them that they just can't deal with or is making them so unhappy, etc. It's remarkably fast. I think you will be surprised. So let's do a little demo with somebody and then maybe breakout rooms, because I'd love you to get into the peer-to-peer thing for every good reason. Then we'll come back and review it. And if we got time, we'll swap partners and practice again, because I want us to be able to do what I call tapping with simplicity and privacy. Why do I want to do that? I will tell you afterwards, but I do have some really good reasons for making sure that I teach you this. So we're going to, that's actually for the other people's practice. So I'm going to go right back here. Can anyone say, I have something, and here's the rules that work best in training? I have something current. I have something that's not huge, not chronic, not traumatic, but it's here, it's something. Does anyone have something in that vein? And if you're looking at intensities, I would say 5 or 4 would probably be the most I'd want to do that, because there's extra pressure and dynamic of being in a group with people and then either practicing or telling your truth. So I want to make sure you're as comfortable as possible. That's why we learn best when we choose something small in class. Any takers? Please. Well, I will go scrolling through the people, but I can't really tell if anybody's got their hand up. So just unmute if you want to do something. Again, remember, this is small, current, not chronic, not old, not huge. It could be like that headache. It could be like the sand in my nose feeling, congestion in my chest. And those are just somatic things. It could also be really irritated by the changes they just made. Full sentence, no more information is necessary in this piece that we're working on right now. Carol, are you going to rescue me? Is that what you're going to do? Thank you.
Yeah, I am. I can do my headache.
All right. How much we got left, buddy?
4.
Okay, great. And full disclosure, if I was working with Daryl in person, I would gather some more information on it. And we also have the luxury of real privacy and time. But teaching this one in a closed group for colleagues' use, so for colleague use, I'm not going to do that so that you can see how easy it could be. So Daryl, is it okay if I just call it this headache?
Yes.
Okay, and it's okay that I don't know anything more about it. There's nothing that you're itching to say. We can just start there. Okay, great. And so we're going to do tapping simple, which is just the facts, ma'am, the Joe Friday version. Okay, so I'm going to start here on the blade edge of the hand. I know at least one person wasn't with us last time. This is where we tell our simple truth.
Is it okay if you're watching, just tap along with us just to get some muscle memory for the motions?
Thank you for saying that. And as a matter of fact, if you have something on your mind that you didn't want to share, that's okay, but make a little note of it on your paper so you can check it out and see if you also benefited from this, okay?
Make sure it's not as Jondi said, it's not the worst thing that ever happened to you. Something kind of
Yes.
immediate, like a headache or
Yes. Current,
something work is
4
bugging
or
you.
5, something immediate, or yeah, this is not the place for therapy, right? So here's where we want to go. We start here on the blade edge of our hand in between the pinky and the wrist, and we say our truth. And so I'm going to prompt Daryl and see if this will do for him. And if it is, Daryl, I just want you to repeat it, okay? Although I have this headache that's still here,
Although I have this headache that's still here,
it's like a 4.
it's like a 4. Yeah,
And that's just where I'm at.
that's just where I'm at. And if Jondi says something that makes me interpret it or isn't the simple truth, I have to let her know that. So give me an example of something like that, Jondi.
Absolutely. So if someone says, I have this headache, I might misinterpret them and get overeager and say, this stubborn, crushing headache. Well, I don't know anything about his headache, which is why I'm showing you this particular model. Thank you, Daryl, because I want to use their simple truth. That's the point. Just the facts, ma'am, right? And Daryl, I will reiterate, anytime I bungle it, please let me know so I can fix that. And it's just right for you. Okay, the Goldilocks method, just right. So I like to do this about 3 times. It seems to give everything a chance to focus on the target. That's my understanding. So I'll say it again. I still have a headache. It's like a 4.
I still have headaches, like a 4.
Well, that's just what it's like right now.
That's just what it's like right now.
That's okay too.
Yeah.
Okay. So I still do have a headache.
I still do have a headache.
It's not huge. It's a 4.
It's not huge. It's about a 4.
And this is the truth. This is where I am.
That's just where it is right now.
It's where it is right now. Thank you. And so I'm going to excise, just lift a couple of words from that sentence. And in this case, I'm teaching you just to use as few as possible. This or this thing, in this case, this headache. So we don't really have to get into their business, do we? So here we go. Daryl, I'm going to stop at the top of my head and I'll say it as a reminder phrase. This headache.
This headache.
Thank you. And at the point where our eyebrow and our nose meet each other, this headache.
This headache.
And then walk across the eyebrow to the side, the ridge of the eye bone there on the side. And you say your reminder phrase again, this headache.
This headache.
And follow that bone until it's under your iris. This headache.
This headache.
Mhm. And then get to the little trough underneath your nose. And we'll say it again, this headache.
This headache.
Good. And then under your lips, there's another little natural trough there. This headache.
This headache.
Mhm. And then I'm going to ask you to go right down your throat to the bottom of your throat. There's 2 knobs, collarbone knobs, clavicles. I want you to just put your fingers underneath the bump part. There's a little depression place there, but you don't have to worry. I've got 2 fingers going on it. It's fine. And I'm going to say the reminder phrase, this headache.
This headache.
And then I'm going to go to the side of the rib cage. So it is under my arm, but it's on the side of my rib cage. And it's where I can reach. It's probably about 3 inches below the armpit, but I've never really thought a lot about measuring. It's just the side of the rib cage. Okay. And I say again, the reminder point, this headache.
This headache.
Mhm. Now I would like to go one more because I had so many instructions. I want Daryl's intervention to have as much simplicity target as possible. So Daryl, quickly run through this with me if you would. Back to the head. This headache I have.
This headache I have.
This headache.
This headache.
This headache I've got.
This headache.
This headache.
This headache.
Got a headache.
I got a headache.
This headache.
This headache.
This one I'm working on. This headache.
This headache. It's been there a while.
Been there a while. And I pick up
Been a
these
while.
words. This headache.
This headache.
And so relax your hands if you would. And then let's just give Daryl a moment to settle. And then we'll say, okay, well, I am curious to find out what's that like now. And any answer is fine. I'm just looking for more truth.
It's more diffuse.
Mhm.
It's kind of relocated
Mhm.
and decreased in intensity. I'll say like a 2.
Thank you for that. And so I'm going to scoop up exactly what he told me. No more questions, no gilding the lily. I'm just going to scoop up what he told me, put it right back in my hands. So I'll go, okay, this headache that I've got is now more diffuse.
This headache I have is more diffuse.
It relocated
It did relocate.
and it's decreased to a 2.
It is now a 2.
And that's just what's true right now.
And that's just the truth.
That's just the truth. This headache is more diffuse and it relocated
This headache is more diffuse and it relocated.
and it decreased to a 2.
And it decreased to a 2.
That's where I'm at.
And that's where I'm at.
This headache I'm working on has become more diffuse. Sorry.
This headache I'm working on become more diffuse.
It relocated
It relocated.
and it went down to a 2.
And it went down to a 2.
That is the truth of what's happening now.
And that's the truth of what's happening now.
This remaining, I'm just going to squeeze it down again for you. This remaining headache Can I say that?
This remaining headache.
This remaining headache.
This remaining headache.
Yep, whatever's left
Whatever's left
of this headache,
of this headache.
this remaining headache.
This headache.
Still some there.
Still some there.
This headache.
This headache.
Yeah, there's some there.
There's some there.
Mhm. And in the interest of just repetition of trying to get this settled in them, this headache
This headache.
down to a 2.
Down to a 2.
This remainder headache,
This remainder headache.
whatever's left of this,
Not much left.
not much left,
Not much left.
not much left. It's a
Not
headache.
much of this headache.
Used, relocated, down to a 2.
It's relocated down to a 2.
This headache.
This headache.
And now we give him a moment again, and we ask again for his subjective truth in the moment. So Daryl, what's that like now? Just so we know.
I have to say, doggone it, Jondi. The two.
That always cracks me up when you say that, doggone it. So for all the listeners who maybe don't even know our sense of humor, how about this more acute description of what's going on so that they can see that perhaps I'm putting words in your mouth so you can reject them or to pick them up. I don't care. But perhaps they can see that once a pain or an intensity is moved aside, I can see more clearly what's going on. And that helps us know what to tap on, starting with the person we're tapping with. So could you just say something about what it's like now so we know?
It's about the first, just for conversation purposes,
Mhm.
the first lap through, right around here, I started to really pay attention to what was changing.
Mhm.
And then the second lap, after we stopped there, I reckoned, well, it was here, then it moved here. The intensity decreased, and by the end of the second lap, it feels there's still something present,
Mhm.
but it's like a 1, a 0.5.
Got
It just saying, I got something here. It's not big,
Yep.
but it's not all the way gone.
Absolutely fantastic. Good information. So again, I want to make sure I keep driving this point home. I just scoop up whatever he said. I don't have an agenda. I just don't, right? I just want to be helpful. So I go, okay, the truth is the intensity decreased
The intensity decreased,
and there's still something present.
but there's still something present,
And that's just what I'm experiencing.
and that is just what I'm experiencing.
The headache decreased,
The headache decreased,
but there's still something present here.
but there's still something present.
That's what I'm noticing.
That's what I'm noticing.
There's something still here,
There's something still here,
but the headache itself decreased and diffused.
but the headache itself did decrease and it did diffuse. Yeah,
Right? And that's what I'm noticing.
and that's what I'm noticing.
And so we go right up here and we're going to use from the sentence, we're going to use the reminder phrase, still something here.
Still something there.
Mhm. And still something there.
Still something.
There's still something here.
There's still something there.
It's just not a headache.
And it's just not a headache. That's true.
It's something.
It's something.
Something is present.
Something is present.
There's something here.
There's something there.
Mhm. That's what I'm noticing. There's something here.
That's what I'm noticing. There's something there.
And I
Something.
just did one round there, but I'm going to ask because tapping is sort of like getting ahead of steam, some inertia. You know, once you start that rolling through the entire meridian system of the body, it starts processing pretty fast, sometimes too fast for people to keep up with all the information coming. So I am always looking to modulate it. And it felt to me like Daryl has something, but he's fine. So it wouldn't matter either way. So now I'm just paying attention to our clock. And I'll just say, so what do you know about the something present now? Or how could you describe it for yourself, if nothing else?
It's not the quality of the hurt changed. It was like more of a pushing up, and then it became more diffuse, and now it's more numb. Like where the thing was is more numb now. I don't feel like I wouldn't describe it as a headache.
Yeah. So I'm going to let you do this on your own to yourself while I talk to them, okay? But here's where I would go next, because we tap together often. I would just go with the exact words that he came up with, is the quality of the hurt has changed. It's like numb where that headache used to be.
You want me to tap on this now?
I would say you go ahead and do that, and I will turn my attention back to the class. But
Okay.
I want them to see we're just almost like winnowing down a funnel of more and more and more specific subjective experience. And in that way, that's why it makes perfect self-care, because Daryl could have been doing that whole time if he'd thought about it, and he would just be following the trail that the tapping is opening up for him. So any questions about that? Please.
And if nobody has questions, I can throw something in there as well.
Oh, good. Okay.
Notice that I think a lot of people feel a lot of pressure about saying the right thing and tapping the right duration on the different points.
Got it.
And really, you just want to satisfy the form.
Yeah.
Is I have this, but this. That's satisfying the form. And so don't overthink it. Don't make it brain surgery. You'll get in your own way.
As a matter of fact, I mean, I don't mean to be cheeky, Daryl, but don't think it. Simply respond to what they said. Drop it into the structure, and away you go. Thinking it actually isn't going to be very helpful at this stage of the game. It is simply acceptance, letting people say their truth, letting people be heard, and taking their subjective reality. That's why I know I've said, and I keep thinking I'm a broken record, but Daryl, thank you for reminding me. It's not your words. You don't have to think of a thing. Ask them what's going on, repeat what they said, say, follow me. Let's just try this. The end of this particular version of Tapping Simple. We can make it more complicated. The cool thing is we don't have to. In order
One thing that I found was interesting is I don't have anything that came to mind for me to tap on, but just walking through the process of Daryl's, I was finding myself yawning, my whole body's super relaxed. And that's a nice thing to, I mean, I hope that if I'm doing it with somebody that I don't start yawning.
Well, if you do,
really chill.
If you do, I want to tell you right away, that's a fabulous sign. It's just a release. Tears are a release, yawning is a release, but yawning is probably the most common thing that happens with tapping. It's almost like we let go of our grip on something. So when that happens, we merely say, oh, good release. That's it. Sum total of the lesson. Right? That happens a lot. Good release. Normalize it for them, in other words. And so also, thank you for telling me that you had that result, because this is essentially what I was talking about earlier, the borrowing benefit idea, is that I can have on my sheet of paper, well, I don't have to have a headache. It could be my stomach. It could be my landlord, anything. But as I write it down, it's like an intention. You can make that fancy if you want. That's cool. But if you just scratch that down, it's like your subconscious is already alert to the fact that, oh, okay, we're going to get some work done here too. That's cool. And then you turn your attention to the person in front of you. And as you do that, then you go, oh, well, that's really interesting. And now my body feels all calm and relaxed too. And so in a room full of or an office full of helping people. Wouldn't that be great? After or with each client, that I could just start feeling more and more calm and relaxed, soothed. Yeah, well, that's a good thing. Thank you.
In the chat are your people's tools for the tapping charts. I put them into the chat where
Thanks.
people can download them. I emailed them to everybody, but just in case y'all want to refer to that, they are in the chat. Not to interrupt
Thank
your
you
flow
so
here,
much.
but
That
might
said,
be
Annie,
beneficial.
that said, and I do want you to use them, I do want you to know them, but it is literally hard work not to hit an acupuncture point on your body. There are that many. So not to worry. Do I like being of integrity? Do I like wanting to do it right? Whatever that is. Yes, I do. And it's like what we said before. That means I'm satisfying structural concerns that I've been taught. This is EFT, or this is tapping. And then I'm customizing, or I am bending it to suit and meet them where they are. So literally the only thing I could get wrong would not be listening to them, trying to change their words, or trying to push an agenda. And I know that you guys don't want to do that anyway. So why start now in tapping, right? So there's really nothing to be worried about getting right, except for not doing it at all. So thank you. Thank you for putting that in the chat box. So what time is it? The share screen takes off my
Yeah, about 5 minutes.
That's it?
Yeah.
I don't like that. Darn it. I think we had a good time today and we practiced some stuff, but here's what I'm going to have to do because of time. I was going to have you break up into triads so that one person could receive and take some notes or observations, but the other person could be a giver or a receiver. I think you could still do that. You do have each other's emails, I believe, on Annie's missives to you. But I would love it if you could tap with somebody. And if it's not here in class, okay, somebody else. But I would like you just to try something. Focus on one thing, just one thing, one simple measurement so you know where you are. It's the equivalent of little kids in the back seat of the station wagon. Are we there yet? Right? This is how you keep on track finding your way. Choose a title or a phrase that can be just as simple as this thing. You will be surprised at the relief that pours off other people if they understand they get help and they don't have to spill the beans. This was one of the most valuable things ever with the veterans. I want help and I don't want to go through that again. And guess what I said? I want some help and I don't want to go through that again. And that's the truth. In other words, you just pick up with reverence what they say and pour it in to the form. Okay. So I'd like you to tap at least a couple of rounds before you measure what's that like now. And you go forward from there. Either A, it's all gone, or B, some of it's gone, like with Daryl, or there's something else that came up when you allowed yourself to focus on it more. I'm not really afraid of that. I'm just going, oh, tapping is like WD-40, and you just showed me what this is really about. Oh, and so without making that elongated O with them, I just go, very good, let's start there. Even though I thought it was about this, it's about that, this thing, that thing, whatever it is. I still don't have to know, right? That's what I found out. That's what it's like. The original structure was kind of fancy language of I deeply and completely accept myself. But thankfully, we've kind of moved into customization for everyone's experience. And so just choose something that is an acknowledgement and say, is that okay for you? Would that work? And if not, they'll let you know because you just gave them permission to correct you and to be heard. Okay, tap a couple of rounds, remeasure, find out where are you now? What is that like now? Keyword is really now, isn't it? And the what's that like is a huge open-ended question on purpose. Okay, because it'll deliver more information that then I can help them tap with. And then together you're going to decide, is that enough? Or do you want to take that on for yourself, like I just did with Daryl? Or would you like to take that into a classic tapping session with me on Tuesday? Yeah, you get to discern what is the best idea by virtue of where you go there. So what do you learn? Please, somebody tell me what you learned. And it's not a test. It's just me trying to make sure that I was, let's say, faithful in delivering information to you that's going to help you and a colleague. I really hope you'll try it with a colleague this week.
Thank you, Jondi. This is great. I just love how simple it is. Like you don't, I really love how you don't have to think, because it seems like whenever I do that, I go with my head instead of my heart. Things
Sure.
tend to go wrong, right? And so you don't have to think with this technique, and that's a powerful, powerful tool. I like it.
I love that. And just for those people who maybe feel like, you know, I don't want to use a tool that doesn't think. That's not what we're saying. I think I'm on the same page with Bradley when I go, the thinking part is not mine to do at this stage. It's really not. This is just about them. And I love that, because I cannot tell you how many people have dissolved into small tears, most of them small tears, and said, no one has ever let me just have my say before. And you never stomped on my words. You just did what I said. And it surprised me. But this is a common feedback that I get from using it with people. So I think we're on the right track with that. Thank you, Bradley, for bringing that up. Anybody else have anything else they would like me to stick around for or say? I next time really do want you to have your materials, think about what your notes say, try it out with some colleagues here or there. And then I want us to have a little bit of practice with each other, because I know if you feel confidence launching it here, you will feel more confidence launching it out there and making it a permanent part of your tool bag. So with that, Daryl, is there anything else you would like me to say or cover? Annie?
I
I'd
do
like
want
to
to,
say thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Daryl?
I want to tell the audience about your books if I can I?
Oh, please. That would be so nice.
So Jondi has I think 3 at this point. I may be wrong. How to be a great detective in finding and working with trauma or stress and using these tools. Emotional first aid for children. I think that's your newest one. Is that correct?
That's true. And the second one was about giving great groups, and it was really tapping centric. And actually, I don't usually sell it anymore. Some people get a copy, but I'm trying to update it so it's not just tapping centric, because there's a lot of people during COVID needing to facilitate better groups online, et cetera, and I didn't have an online section. So the 2 that Daryl were mentioning, thank you. How to be a great detective is really about asking a stair-stepped set of more quality questions. And they're also in the who, what, where, when families. So it's very easy for you to see. At this stage, these 1-2 classes that I've given you, you actually don't need to ask a whole lot of those questions. But as you go up the stair steps into using this algorithm as one of your protocols that you like, it becomes, I think, it behooves you to ask better quality questions. And I think I just learned from a lot of great people, and I'm passing it on. And the compassion in action is emotional first aid for children. I started writing that book before COVID to deal with the fact that American children were being asked to deal with shootings or simulations of shootings every week. And it just broke my heart. And I said, well, we cannot let them continue to encode this terrible sort of somatic response to traumatic experience. We have to do something. So I palled up with my friend Deborah Miller, PhD, who used to be in microbiology down in the pediatric oncology unit in Oaxaca. And soon she started loving her work so much that she became a child parent advocate. And so, you know, these are literally some of the worst things that can happen to your family. So I knew I had the right partner, and we were good friends, and I trusted her. And so together we've put a book that is in 3 parts. The first part is all about you. Why? Because just like the airplane, you gotta do it for yourself first so that you can send out that grounded, soothed smart, discerning mind to help somebody else. Second part is all about them. So it does spend some time talking about child development and different phases of traumatic experience because different things are required. And the last bit is about teaching others to do that too and paying it forward. Bless you, Daryl. Thank you.
I have all of her books. I'm a groupie. It is just they're great resources ever, and you can get them on Amazon. So
Yeah,
they're
absolutely.
yeah, they're great resources. I encourage you guys to pick them up. Well, let's
Thank
see you guys here next Tuesday. We'll keep picking up, and we're going to keep building and building. We're going to do more skill development over the next couple of weeks. It's already halfway done. Oh my goodness, that's going to go by fast.
I know. So next time we really have to work together to
Yeah.
see how it's landing with you so we can make sure that you've got what you need.
So thank you, everyone. Let's take care of each other. Annie, thank you. And we'll see you on Tuesday.